nation in turmoil, millions of lives at stake, and an escalating humanitarian crisis, Sudan is experiencing a devastating conflict that is tearing apart the very fabric of its society. As the world watches, the unfolding crisis demands an urgent collective response from the international community to prevent a catastrophe and secure a peaceful future for the Sudanese people. The current crisis in Sudan has reached a critical juncture, with over 100,000 people fleeing and an additional 334,000 displaced within its borders. As rival forces clash in the capital city of Khartoum, civilians find themselves trapped in a maelstrom of violence and uncertainty. With ceasefires faltering and diplomatic efforts struggling to gain traction, time is running out for Sudan. In today's video, we'll explore escalating conflict wreaks havoc on Sudanese civilians, with death and displacement surging. Sudan's healthcare infrastructure faces collapse amid the ongoing violence, leaving a vulnerable population at risk. International diplomacy struggles to secure peace talks and a ceasefire while preparing for a potential refugee crisis. Neighboring countries and global powers must navigate the crisis, balancing humanitarian aid with peace-building efforts. Before jumping into details, share this video and subscribe to our channel now to get the latest global insights. The fighting in Sudan has reached alarming levels, causing a massive exodus of more than 100,000 people fleeing the country in search of safety, with an additional 334,000 displaced within Sudan's borders. The conflict is particularly intense in the capital city of Khartoum, where civilians find themselves trapped amidst the crossfire between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Al Jazeera correspondent Hassan Razak provides harrowing accounts of airstrikes targeting RSF locations in Omdurman, followed by heavy gunfire, further illustrating the dire situation on the ground. Despite the announcement of ceasefires, fighting continues to escalate, deepening the sense of chaos and uncertainty among the Sudanese people. This crisis is not only affecting the population in the immediate conflict zones, but is also threatening to create a major humanitarian catastrophe. The United Nations has warned that if the fighting does not cease, the consequences will be disastrous, with millions of children at risk and countless more lives lost. The unfolding events in Sudan have been met with growing concern from neighboring countries, as well as from the international community. In this time of crisis, diplomatic efforts have been intensified in an attempt to bring the warring parties to the negotiating table. On Tuesday, South Sudan's foreign ministry announced that the army and RSF had agreed in principle to a new 7-day truce, starting on May 4th. The two sides have also promised to send representatives to participate in peace talks, possibly in Saudi Arabia. However, as ceasefires continue to falter, the situation remains precarious and the future uncertain. The conflict in Sudan has far-reaching implications, affecting not only its citizens, but also its neighbors and the wider international community. The potential for a new humanitarian crisis, coupled with concerns over shared Nile waters and oil pipelines, has prompted global powers such as Russia, the United States, and the European Union to take an active interest in Sudan's affairs. The ongoing crisis has led to a reshuffling of regional alliances and power dynamics, with countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and South Sudan playing crucial roles in the unfolding situation. As the crisis in Sudan continues to escalate, it is essential for the international community to remain vigilant and committed to finding a peaceful resolution. The consequences of inaction are immense, with hundreds of thousands of lives at stake. By working together, both regional and global powers have the potential to bring about positive change and help Sudan move towards a more stable and peaceful future. Share this video to spread awareness about the escalating crisis in Sudan, and don't forget to subscribe for updates. In the midst of the ongoing conflict, Sudan's healthcare infrastructure is rapidly deteriorating. World Health Organization Regional Director Ahmed Al-Mandari reported that up to 70% of hospitals are out of service due to the fighting, with around 26 attacks on healthcare facilities resulting in the deaths of healthcare workers and civilians. With hospitals being used as military bases and healthcare services disrupted, the Sudanese people face a massive health crisis that is only expected to worsen if the conflict does not subside. The Sudan Doctors Syndicate has reported a devastating toll on the civilian population, with at least 436 deaths and 2,175 injuries recorded so far. The destruction of medical facilities and the targeting of healthcare workers have left many without access to essential medical care, further exacerbating the health crisis. In some areas, entire hospitals have been taken over by armed forces, rendering them inaccessible to the civilian population. Additionally, the limited availability of medical supplies and equipment has made it increasingly difficult for healthcare providers to adequately care for the injured and sick. The impact of the conflict on the healthcare system is particularly alarming considering the current global health landscape, with the ongoing threat of infectious diseases and the need for effective healthcare systems to manage potential outbreaks. The collapse of Sudan's healthcare infrastructure not only puts the lives of the Sudanese people at risk, but could also lead to regional and global health concerns. As the situation deteriorates, the international community must prioritize efforts to rebuild and support Sudan's healthcare system. Providing medical supplies, equipment, and personnel to the affected areas is crucial in alleviating the immediate needs of the population. In addition, long-term strategies should be developed to ensure the sustainability and resilience of Sudan's healthcare infrastructure, taking into consideration the potential for future conflicts and crises. The international community has been alarmed by the unfolding humanitarian crisis in Sudan and has taken various steps to address the situation. UN Special Envoy to Sudan, Volker Perthes, has been working with Saudi and US mediators to establish a stable and reliable ceasefire between the warring parties. Meanwhile, the UNHCR is preparing to meet the potential needs of up to 800,000 refugees if the violence continues. With diplomatic efforts being stepped up, there is hope for a resolution to the conflict and an end to the suffering of the Sudanese people. While these efforts are commendable, more needs to be done to ensure a lasting peace in Sudan. The international community must continue to exert pressure on the warring parties to engage in meaningful dialogue and work towards a peaceful resolution. Furthermore, regional organizations and global powers must use their influence to facilitate negotiations and provide support for peace-building initiatives, as well as offering humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict. The success of diplomatic efforts in Sudan will depend on the willingness of both the Sudanese government and opposition forces to engage in genuine dialogue and make meaningful concessions. The international community can play a vital role in encouraging and facilitating these negotiations, but ultimately, the responsibility for peace lies with the people and leaders of Sudan. The ongoing crisis in Sudan has repercussions not only for its citizens, but also for neighboring countries and global powers. Concerns about shared Nile waters, oil pipelines, and the potential for a new humanitarian crisis have prompted nations like Russia, the United States, and the European Union to take an active interest in Sudan's affairs. The conflict has also led to a reshuffling of regional alliances and power dynamics, with countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and South Sudan playing crucial roles in the unfolding crisis. Neighboring countries have a vested interest in the stability of Sudan, as the spillover effects of the conflict can have significant consequences for their own security and economic interests. As such, they have a responsibility to contribute to peace-building efforts in the region and to assist in addressing the humanitarian crisis. This can be achieved through the provision of financial and logistical support, as well as by offering refuge to those displaced by the conflict. Global powers, too, have a role to play in Sudan's crisis. By leveraging their diplomatic influence and providing financial and humanitarian assistance, they can contribute to a peaceful resolution and help mitigate the impact of the conflict on the Sudanese population. Additionally, they can work in collaboration with regional organizations to promote peace-building initiatives and support the rebuilding of Sudan's infrastructure, particularly in the areas of healthcare, education, and social services. In conclusion, the crisis in Sudan requires a concerted and coordinated effort from both regional and global actors. The international community must continue to work together to address the humanitarian crisis, support peace-building initiatives, and promote long-term stability in Sudan. The ongoing humanitarian crisis in Sudan is a stark reminder of the devastating impact of armed conflict on innocent civilians. As the situation continues to deteriorate, it is crucial for the international community to come together to address the immediate needs of the Sudanese people and work towards a lasting peace in the region. The path forward for Sudan and the international community involves a multifaceted approach. First and foremost, diplomatic efforts must be intensified to bring the warring parties to the negotiating table and secure a sustainable ceasefire. This involves the collaboration of regional organizations, neighboring countries, and global powers, all of whom have a vested interest in the stability of Sudan. In addition to diplomatic efforts, the international community must prioritize the provision of humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict. This includes addressing the pressing health crisis by supporting the rebuilding of Sudan's healthcare infrastructure, as well as providing food, shelter, and other essential resources to the displaced and vulnerable population. Lastly, a long-term approach to peace-building and stability in Sudan must be developed. This entails investing in the country's education, social services, and infrastructure, promoting good governance and the rule of law, and fostering a culture of dialogue and reconciliation among the Sudanese people. The crisis in Sudan presents a significant challenge to the international community, but it also presents an opportunity for collaboration and unity in the pursuit of peace and stability. By working together and leveraging their collective resources and influence, regional and global actors can help bring an end to the suffering of the Sudanese people and pave the way for a brighter future for the nation. Share this video to raise awareness about the crisis in Sudan and encourage global cooperation in addressing humanitarian needs and promoting peace. Don't forget to subscribe for updates on the situation and other important global events.